What if the most precious scenes in your mind never happened to you at all? Not a dream, not a metaphor. A birthday party you can picture in perfect detail. The smell of candles, the scratchy carpet under your knees, the exact joke your uncle told. And yet, it could be a memory that was planted. Grown, manufactured, like a photograph that was never taken but still feels more real than yesterday. You already know memory isn't a video recording. You've heard that before, but that idea doesn't land until you notice how memory actually behaves. You don't play back the past, you rebuild it every single time. Start with something small. Two people watch the same event. Later, they disagree on a basic detail: what color the car was, which direction someone ran, whether the man had a beard. They aren't lying. Their brains are doing what brains do, compressing reality, filling gaps, smoothing the story into something usable. Now add emotion. Stress narrows attention. Your eyes lock on the threat, not the background. You remember the knife, not the face. Then later, someone asks a question, a leading question. Was it the red car? And the brain, desperate to be helpful, grabs the word red and quietly stitches it into the scene. Here's the unsettling part. Once it's stitched in, it doesn't feel stitched in. It feels like you were there. This isn't just theory, it's a property of the system. Memory is not storage. It's a tool for prediction. You keep what matters for survival and meaning. You throw away the rest. And when you need the story again, you generate a version that makes sense. That's why you can misremember with confidence. Confidence isn't a stamp of truth. It's a feeling your brain attaches when the story fits. Think about childhood. Most of your earliest memories aren't raw footage. They're reconstructions built from fragments. A photo you've seen 100 times, a story your family repeated, a location you visited later, an emotion you still carry. Over years, those ingredients can fuse into a vivid scene. You remember the moment the photo was taken, even if you only remember the photo. And it gets stranger. People can develop detailed memories of events that never happened after simple suggestion. Not hypnosis, not drugs, normal conversation. Imagine someone you trust says, "Remember when you got lost at the mall?" At first you deny it. Then they add details. A store, a fountain, a man who helped. You try to picture it just to be sure. The image is fuzzy, but your brain hates fuzziness. It tries again, and again. Each attempt isn't neutral. Each attempt is rehearsal. Practice. Soon you're not asking, "Did it happen?" You're asking, "What happened next?" And the moment you start adding next, you're not retrieving anymore, you're creating. The implications spread out like ink in water. If memories can be shaped by questions, what does that mean for police interviews? For therapy? For family arguments that last decades? What does it mean that two siblings can swear they lived in different households, under the same roof, with the same parents? Then connect it to something you've probably done yourself: retelling. Every time you tell a story, you compress it, you find the punchline, you sharpen the villain, you make yourself a bit smarter, a bit kinder, a bit more justified, not because you're evil, because stories are social tools. They earn approval, they protect status, they explain pain. The retold version becomes the remembered version. Even your sense of identity depends on this. You are partly a narrative built from selected memories. If those memories drift, the narrative drifts. You can become a slightly different person without noticing. Not overnight, a slow rewrite. And there are even more bizarre coincidences. People sometimes remember news events that never occurred. After major tragedies, researchers have documented false reports of seeing footage that doesn't exist. The brain expects images, so it supplies them. In a world where everything is filmed, your mind can feel like it must have seen it. Or consider déjà vu. For a moment, you're certain this has happened before. But it hasn't. It's the sensation of familiarity without the source, like a tag on a file that was never saved. Now take one last step. If your brain can manufacture familiarity, it can manufacture history. This is where the investigation turns from unsettling to dangerous. Because memory isn't just personal. It's evidence. It's testimony. It's the foundation for accusations and apologies and life sentences. In the 1970s, psychologist Elizabeth Loftus began studying how easily memory can be influenced. In one famous line of research, participants watched a car crash and were later asked how fast the cars were going when they hit, bumped, or smashed into each other. Just one word shifted estimates of speed. Later, more people reported seeing broken glass when the question used smashed, even though there was no glass. A word didn't just change an opinion, it changed a memory. Then came an even bigger demonstration, the Lost in the Mall experiments. Loftus and colleagues showed that some people could be led to remember being lost as a child, including specific details and emotions, after being given suggestive information from a relative. Not everyone, not always, but enough to prove the point: a memory can be socially engineered. Other researchers built on this. The broader literature in cognitive psychology has repeated the same warning in different ways. Memory is reconstructive, and suggestion can alter it. Meanwhile, in neuroscience, scientists like Karim Nader and Joseph Ledoux helped revive interest in reconsolidation, the idea that when you recall a memory, it briefly becomes malleable before being stored again. Recall is not a safe read-only action. It's an edit. Even in animals, researchers have shown that memory traces can be altered. And in humans, studies using neuroimaging show that remembering and imagining activate overlapping networks, especially in parts of the hippocampus and related regions. Your brain uses similar machinery to simulate the future and to recreate the past. That overlap is efficient, it's also a loophole. And there's a darker chapter. In the 1980s and 1990s, some therapeutic practices aimed at recovering repressed memories became controversial. Some people came to believe they had uncovered buried memories of abuse, sometimes with catastrophic consequences for families. Courts and professional organizations argued fiercely about how much could be trusted, and experts warned that suggestive techniques could produce false memories. The reality is complicated. Trauma is real, abuse is real, and memory can also be distorted. Both can be true, and that's what makes it so hard. So you might think you're closing in on a chilling conclusion: that memory is basically fake, that your mind is a storyteller and nothing more. But here's the twist. Most scientists do not say memory is useless or arbitrary. They say it's imperfect in a specific way. The mainstream view is that memory is designed to be adaptive, not exact. You don't need a perfect archive. You need a model that helps you navigate the world. And despite its flaws, memory is often reliable enough, especially for the gist of experiences, the central events, and the patterns that matter. Also, not all memories are equally fragile. Some are anchored by repeated exposure, by consistent context, by multiple senses, by corroboration from the world. If you practiced piano for 10 years, that's not going to vanish because of a leading question. If you lived through a major move, a relationship, a loss, those events leave traces across your behavior, your skills, your routines, your documents, other people's memories. They're not just a single mental file that can be swapped out. And scientists emphasize constraints. You can't usually implant anything you want. Suggestion tends to work best when the false event is plausible, when it fits the person's life, when it's delivered with social credibility, and when the person is encouraged to imagine it repeatedly. Even then, many people resist. Some never form the false memory at all. Others form uncertainty rather than conviction. So no, your mind is not a blank hard drive waiting for hackers. But that doesn't let you relax, because the mainstream explanation has its own uncomfortable gaps. First, you can't always tell which memories are just reliable and which are manufactured. Vividness doesn't help. Emotion doesn't help. Confidence doesn't help. A false memory can feel crisp. A true memory can feel foggy, and the brain doesn't label them. Second, the very mechanisms that make memory adaptive, compression, pattern making, reconsolidation, also make it vulnerable in exactly the places you care about most: the social story. Who said what? Who started it? Who crossed a line first? The details that determine guilt and innocence in everyday life. Third, the environment has changed faster than your brain. You live inside suggestion engines. Algorithms feed you narratives. Photos appear in your memories feed. Old messages resurface. Deepfakes are improving. AI can generate evidence of events that never happened. And even without malicious intent, constant replay can sculpt your recollection. The line between remembering and being reminded is thinning. There's also a conflict inside you. You want your memories to be yours, but your memories were always partly outsourced. Family stories, cultural scripts, the way language packages experience. Even the simple act of labeling an emotion, anger, shame, love, changes how you remember the scene. So where does that leave you? It leaves you with a responsibility that feels unfair, to treat your own mind like a witness you care about but cannot fully trust, to check the story against reality when the stakes are high, to ask, how do I know? Instead of how strongly do I feel? And maybe to hold other people the same way, not as liars, not as flawless recorders, as humans with editing brains. Because if memory is reconstructive, then your past is not a place you visit. It's a place you build. And every time you build it, you change the blueprint of who you think you are. So the question isn't only whether your memories are yours. It's this: if your identity is a story written in erasable ink, what kind of person do you become when you finally learn to read it carefully?